Всем добрый день. Вчера ездил в офис компании Гугл, куда меня пригласил мой хороший знакомый Адриан Грэм. Мы с ним знакомы, как выяснилось, много лет, потому что в конце 90-х он был еще в Москве, но об этом он расскажет в своем интервью. Где-то с 1995 года работал еще в Анджелесе, еще в Торонто, еще который был пауэр-аниматор, потом стоял у истоков Майя, потом работал в Digital Domain, в ILM, был одним из продуктов по Bifrost. В общем, обо всем об этом мы поговорили с ним в интервью, которое будет в конце этого видео. Оно такое длинное, на полчаса и на английском. Поэтому многие заскучают. А сейчас я просто расскажу про то, как я ездил в Google и что я там увидел. Сегодня мы решили заехать в офис Google. Google открыл новый офис в Лос-Анджелесе. Это было, по-моему, год или полтора назад. И офис достаточно интересный и уникальный. Его сделали в деревянном ангаре. Огромный деревянный ангар, который был построен в 40-х для того, чтобы построить самолет. Тот самый Говард Хьюз построил огромный самолет, у которого до прошлого года, что ли, это был рекордсмен по размаху крыльев. 98 метров размах крыльев был. Этот самолет садился на воду и должен был, по идее, перевозить солдат во время Второй мировой войны. Но единственный его полет состоялся над заливом в Лос-Анджелесе. Он пролетел 2 километра и на этом все. Закончил свою боевую деятельность. По-моему, до 1976 года Хьюз поддерживал его работоспособность этого самолета, который просто стоял, тратя на это около $1 миллиона в год. Это красивая история, и Google открыл офис именно в этом ангаре, в котором собирали этот самолет. И сам ангар деревянный, и офигенное здание, если честно. И это, наверное, единственный офис Google, где нутро было полностью перестроено под нужды Google. Подъезжаешь к нему со стороны, это такой, ангар черный, на нем огромная буква «Г». Вот такая зеленая аллея, которая ведет к большому зданию с буквой «Г». И парковка, соответственно, каких-то конских размеров. Но, надо сказать, приятно, что ты как гость можешь приехать и запарковаться. И, в общем, тебя еще ключи возьмут. Там такой wallet паркинг называемый. Нужно приглашение. Эдриан прислал мне приглашение, естественно, в Google календаре. Ты, имея это приглашение, просто приходишь на ресепшн, который выглядит примерно вот так, и сканируешь свой QR-код, и тот человек, который тебя пригласил, неведомо уведомляется, и, в общем, в спешке бежит тебя встречать на ресепшн. Насколько я помню, площадь этого ангара где-то 40 тысяч квадратных метров, а работает там, по-моему, около 1000 человек сейчас. В общем, мне, конечно, было интересно посмотреть, как там работают люди и соответствует ли это тем рассказам, которые есть в сети. Первое ощущение – много места, реально много места. Но одним из таких забавных моментов есть огромное поле, где проводятся соревнования по запуску бумажных самолетиков. И это такая площадка, в центре нарисован круг, и тот, кто ближе всего попадет к этому кругу, тот и выиграл. Вот там есть результаты, которые на табличке рисуются. В общем, там какой-то есть рекорд, который никто никогда не побил. Это к вопросу о том, что много места. Open space. Везде сплошной open space. Везде сидят люди. Я не могу привести фотки, так как попросили не снимать мониторы. Нашел одну фотографию в сети. В общем, могу ее запостить здесь. Люди работают по вопросу о расписаниях. Все гибко. Люди приходят где-то к 8:30, к 9 на работу. Нет такого жесткого графика. Я приехал в 5 часов, но уже практически все разошлись. То есть, как мне сказал Эдриан, камон, мы же не в постпродакшене. Здесь нет дедлайнов, здесь нет овернайтов, здесь нет ничего. Люди в среднем в 16:30 уходят с работы, и это нормально. Когда мы уезжали, в 7 часов парковка была пустая. Несмотря на то, что open space, всегда есть место, где уединиться. Огромное количество переговорок, ну и так называемых телефонных комнат. Ты можешь заказать, если тебе нужно с кем-то поговорить, и ты собираешься эмоционально на кого-то воздействовать по телефону, то чтобы окружающие не пугались, ты можешь заказать себе такую переговорочку, и надо зайти, там нажать пару кнопочек, она будет забронирована за тобой в определенное время. Это такое помещение, и, в общем, там стоит компьютер, и все, что нужно для телекоммуникационных переговоров. С точки зрения инфраструктуры, это, конечно, рай. Ну, потому что тебя кормят, поят 24 часа в сутки. Мы приехали поздно, обед уже закончился. Но всегда можно налить себе кофе, взять каких-нибудь фруктов. Не знаю, вот даже перцы я там заприметил. Приятная неожиданность, что, в общем, Гугл тоже любит перцы, как и мы. Ты можешь работать не только на рабочем месте, но и на каких-то смешных ступеньках, сидя на полу, где хочешь. Также интересная деталь, то что ты можешь приводить с собой собак. Единственное ограничение, собаки должны быть на поводке. Ну и, в общем-то, наверное, не писать, не какать на рабочем месте. Ты можешь приводить с собой детей. Дети тоже должны быть на поводке. И, в общем, должны не писать, не какать. Шутка, если что. Ты можешь приводить с собой родственников. Они, в общем, тоже должны не шуметь сильно и, в общем, не гадить. И, то есть, ограничений практически нет. То есть, ты должен просто работать. Если тебе комфортно работать в определенных условиях, ты можешь их создать, лишь бы эти условия не мешали другим. В офисе Google также находится команда YouTube, которые, ну, я не буду говорить, чем занимается YouTube, но особенность то, что прямо в этом ангаре есть огромная продакшн-студия. Ну, прям внутри ангара. Ну и, как мне сказал Эдриан, в общем, какие-то топовые ютуберы, у которых там какие-то зверские числа просмотров и сабскрайберов, они могут приезжать в офис Гугла и там снимать свои дурацкие видео. В общем, для этого все есть. И были бы цифры просмотров, приезжайте в офис Гугла, там есть YouTube Production Studio, и вы там можете творить все, что угодно. Внутрь не заходили, но снаружи выглядит достаточно впечатляюще. Интересно, мебель кастомная, что мне понравилось, кто-то сидит на шариках, кто-то стоит, работает стоя. Столы все с кнопочкой, они, знаете, столы, которые могут подниматься, и высота стола может регулироваться. Каждый может работать за удобными ему девайсами. Вот Эдриан показал мне совершенно фантастическую клавиатуру, где, в общем, там пальцы ходят по дуге, и вообще он очень нахваливал такой девайс. Сказал, что он с ним уже там 20 лет. Игровая комната, пожалуйста, к вашим услугам. Приходите в любое время и играйте. Я так понимаю, хоть весь день, лишь бы ваша продуктивность не падала. Консоли, там, футбол настольный, воздушный хоккей. Ну, все что угодно. Что бы ни делать, лишь бы работать. Массажные кресла стоят. Я таких массажных кресел еще не видел. Я не стал фотографировать человека, но там, по-моему, он массирует не только ноги, но и внутренние органы. По крайней мере, человек был глубоко поглощен этим креслом. По-моему, ему массировали мозг. В следующий раз сам попробую, потому что такие прикольные массажные кресла. Арман, тут тебе привет. Я сразу вспомнил твою студию. Вот. И массажное кресло. На входе красуется такая скульптура. На проволочках подвешены такие стеклянные шарики. Если посмотреть с определенного ракурса, то это как раз скульптура вот того самого гуся. Ну и вообще гусиная тематика там везде. Гуси висят по стенам. И ну, видно, что очень трепетно относятся к этой истории, этого ангара. Они даже воссоздали переговорку. Если вот в 40-х сидели люди, переговаривались, перед ними стояли пепельницы, то теперь это идеально повторяет той же формы стол. Также стоят стулья, только вместо пепельниц такие круги на столах. Как сказал Эдриан, ну, чтобы туда класть ключи, телефоны и так далее. Как вы понимаете, курить в наше время не очень политкорректно. Есть душ, есть фитнес-зал на какой-то там 200 человек, что ли. Есть все условия для того, чтобы просто там обитать. В конце мы сели с Эдрианом в одной из переговорах и поговорили с ним за жизнь. за то, как он попал в компьютерную графику еще в 1995 году, как он потом попал в Alias Wavefront, как раз незадолго до того, как Silicon Graphics купил и Alias Wavefront. Про падучую Майю, про то, как она начиналась, про то, как ее надо было демонстрировать. В общем, такая исповедь старперов, которые вспоминают старые времена. Потом Эдриан, кстати, был одним из первых продуктов по Bifrost сразу после покупки Autodesk Наяда, и участвовал как раз в прототипе Bifrost, определяя, какие фишки войдут в Bifrost в первую очередь или нет. Мы с ним поговорили за Bifrost много. Если интересно, домотайте до того места. В общем, не буду ничего говорить. То есть это как баланс между разочарованием и, в общем, восхищением. Эдриан много рассказал про то, как он попал в Гугл, про то, какую череду собеседований ему пришлось пройти. Это, в общем, забавно. Особенно история про то, что ты должен как бы кодить в реальном времени прямо на собеседовании. Эдриан занимается сейчас Эдриан занимается сейчас облаками. То есть Google Cloud и всеми технологиями мультимедиа entertainment, которые могут быть перенесены в облако. Соответственно, он топил за удаленные рабочие станции. Мы с ним обсудили пока невозможность перенести посекундную тарификацию аренды, не знаю, Мая, Макса и так далее. В общем, поговорили и за это. Это интервью на полчаса. Кому интересно, поглядите дальше. Единственное, конечно, эта переговорка, она такая переливается всеми цветами радуги, и там какие-то материалы на стенах совершенно футуристические. Телефон сходит с ума, а искусственный интеллект в телефоне, он, собственно говоря, теряет свой интеллект, поэтому, возможно, забавные спецэффекты во время интервью. Итак, мы находимся в офисе Google, куда нас пригласил мой хороший приятель Adrian Graham, с которым мы знакомы, как выяснилось, еще с 90-х годов, когда он приезжал в Москву. Я уже запостил несколько фоток у себя в Фейсбуке, и, может быть, здесь тоже запущу. So, it's time for some questions, some history, some old school, how to say...
Go into the Wayback Machine?
Yeah, way back to the,
yeah,
back to the past.
Yes, okay.
So, let's talk about 90s. When was the time you came into the CG?
I was in university for political science, and
political science.
I was very bored, and I had the opportunity. I went to a seminar at a hotel in Toronto given by Alias Research, and they were showing really, really cool stuff, like 3D, and this is pre-Maya. This is auto studio days and everything.
Studio days.
Yeah, and they had an internship. Sorry. There was a school there called the ITDC, the Information Technology Design Center, that had a year-long course to learn Alias Power Animator. And I dropped out of school like the next week, and I signed up for this course, and I took the course, and I had never done 3D before, and this was in 1994. So there was only two or three schools in the world that were teaching this. And at the end of the class, at the end of the course, somebody came in from Alias Research looking for interns. And I guess I got the job because they hired me and one other person, and I interned there for 3 months.
Just after the course.
Just at the end of the course, they wanted some inexpensive interns to do some busy work.
But that means that you were good.
I'm still in touch with the people that hired me. Russell Paul, who worked at ILM for many years, he hired me, and now he works at Epic Games. But so anyways, I worked they hired me full time after an internship, and then I worked there from 95 to 98 at Alias Wavefront. And
it was Alias Wavefront, yeah.
It was Alias. Well, I was hired 3 weeks before the acquisition. Before SGI acquired
the
both Alias and Wavefront and combined them. So I had like 3 weeks of like, alias research shirts, and I got the leather jacket, the motorcycle jacket as the
Wow.
and then alias Wavefront for another few years.
Yeah. So, and did you were involved into the Maya?
Yeah. So
Into the Maya like development.
Correct.
Before releasing.
I was there when they just started talking about Maya, which was probably in late '95 or early '96, and then we showed some very early iterations. You remember those demos with the cowboy and the dodo bird and all that
Dodo
stuff.
bird.
You've seen
Finally bingo.
Yeah, well, with pre-bingo. This is before bingo. And I was at the time, it was called a product specialist, which is basically somebody that tests the product and gives feedback to the engineers, and then does demonstrations at conferences and stuff like that, and travels around the world and gives
that
demos.
was the reason that you came to Moscow one day.
Yeah, those are back in the days when you had to bring the computer with you to do a demo. And we're talking like a $40,000 max impact with crazy graphics cards and everything, and
It's a big bag.
a huge box, like a metal travel box that we would check on an airplane and everything, and we would travel from place to place. We did these world tours, we called them. We would go all over Asia and all over Europe and all over South America, and this is before the internet, so you couldn't just post a YouTube video of showing the new software, the latest and greatest. You had to go to these city centers and give these talks.
And what was your first impression about Maya when you touched it the first time?
Totally broken.
Totally broken.
Everything totally broken. So nothing's changed. But there was like kind of a butting of heads between the Wavefront developers and the Alias Research developers.
So it was kind of fighting.
They were kind of fighting, and then when they chose to go like with this viewport from Wavefront, I think from Explorer, and this set of controls and these icons from Alias, like they weren't really from the same code base, right? Or they didn't feel like it, and there was a lot of integration that when you did certain combinations of commands and stuff, it would crash very easily. So we had these demonstrations that not only did we have a spoken script, but we also had like a very precise click here once and then click here twice and then click and hold and move, and if you strayed from that, you would like freeze up the system or freeze up Maya. You'd have to kill it. And there was all these sort of secrets that we had when we did these stage demos of the order of operation, and if it crashed, we had another Maya minimized that we could just pop open that had the scene already loaded and everything. And, I mean, these are the old tricks of the demo artists in the '90s. But
as I was told from Kevin Turetsky, he told me that they try to build an operational system. This is why this Mel scripts. This is why so many system commands inside Maya. So they try to make an operational system that people will live inside, making CG.
Well, Maya was really amazing at the time because everything was based on Mel. Everything, the UI, every shelf item, every tool command, every UI element, every move, everything is sort of drilled all the way down to like the solver level. Like the IK solver can be invoked with a command, right? So you could, and Mel was based on a language from Dynamation. Why am I forgetting now? Called Sophia.
Oh,
you remember this? Do you remember this?
I remember Dynamation, but I couldn't remember Sophia.
It's Jim Horhan, I think, who went on to develop RV. He was one of the early engineers at Wavefront who developed Dynamation. I think I'm getting this right. Apologies if I'm not. But there was a scripting language in Dynamation. I think it was called Sophia. And Mel was sort of loosely based on that. And also C, obviously. It's very C-like. But it sort of stood the test of time for almost 20 years until 15 years, and then Python. The Python API came in, but it still wasn't as well integrated as Mel. And today everything is still built in Mel, like all the UI and all the commands. But now obviously Bifrost and the Open Graph is taking over and becoming very extensible and very powerful.
did you go to Autodesk, or you were in Alias still when Autodesk
It was
acquired?
not at the time. So I left Alias Wavefront in '98, and I went to ILM. So that was my first job in production. And the reason I went to ILM was a guy that I worked with at Alias Wavefront left to be head of the technical directors at ILM, a guy named Jeff Wood, and I got to, I got through the interview process, and I ended up being like an ATD, which is an assistant technical director, to start. But the timing was really, really good because ILM was just starting to use Maya, and there was, and Maya had just barely been released. It was like version 1, and I think they were using version 1.5. And I was like the only person at ILM that knew Maya, and like had a sort of connectivity back to Alias Wavefront, so I could call up my old friends and say, hey, this is broken, can you help fix it? And it was like, kind of like a partner relationship at that time. And I got to work on episode 1 and a bunch of Star Wars episode 1 and a bunch of other films, sort of as the sort of support technical director for all this Maya framework, all this Maya pipeline stuff that they were just starting to release. So that was my first job in the industry.
And when did you get back to Autodesk?
That wasn't until many, many years later. Autodesk, so it's 2019 now. I've been here for 3 years. Autodesk, I think I was 2013 till 2016. Maybe 12 or 13 till 16.
And before?
Before that was Digital Domain, and I was at DD.
So you were in production for such a long time.
Yeah, so it's like Autodesk and Alias Wavefront are the bookends, and then in the middle, in the meat of the sandwich is the production, right?
So it looks like you're like widely experienced person from like development, production, and the pipeline engineering, then back to the development again.
I still feel like I know nothing. The more you know, the less you know.
Yeah, right? That's good feeling. So you came back 2013. I thought it was like Bifrost project already started.
Yeah. So here I wanted to, and this is a lot of what I talk about is what happened in like the California VFX and animation industry, right? Where there's no subsidies or they're very little, and all the business is moving up to Vancouver or Montreal or somewhere other than California. So all the companies, all the studios are chasing the subsidies, and I kind of didn't want to move to Vancouver, and I was afraid that I would be laid off or something. So I sort of pulled the parachute and got a job at Autodesk. As a product designer for Bifrost. Yeah. Because Bifrost was just barely, it was like 1 year in being developed. Yeah. And at the time, it was essentially Marcus Nordenstam, who was one of the co-authors of Naiad. And it was an integration, like they acquired him and his company along with Robert Bridson and one other person whose name I can't remember. And some other engineers like Michael Nielsen, who are like the big brains behind the solvers. And they integrated Bifrost into Maya as a sort of a very basic, like, this is an effects package, right? They had big plans to make, very early on when I was there, they had big plans to make a big open graph and massive functionality and everything, but they really had to focus on making the effects part, work really well. So as a product designer, I was responsible for sort of designing the user experience and the journey, the critical user journey, as they call it, in the UX world. And that essentially was understanding how people wanted to use it, what they needed, like how artists wanted to use it. And that also meant working a lot with Houdini artists, because this was, going up against the Houdini solvers.
It was like half of the users of Beta Forum was a Houdini users.
Yeah, well, and the other half were ICE.
Softimage, and Peter Shipkov.
And Peter Shipkov. I worked with Peter at Digital Domain.
I remember those times. It was hot discussion. 2013, 14, 15. It was really hot discussion.
When they killed XSI.
Everybody was very excited about Bifrost.
But they were also hopes. But they were also upset about XSI and that Autodesk killed it. Right. That was a pretty rough time for some people at Autodesk, because they got a lot of They got a lot of grief.
Yeah, I remember the announcement that Marcus or somebody else introduced you as a new product manager.
Yeah.
I wasn't better those times.
Oh yeah.
I remember it was a wow. But it is even more hopes now.
Yeah.
And then,
yes. I mean, there was good stuff, and the solvers were amazing. It was doing amazing things, but it sort of plateaued.
Yeah.
It took from when I left in 2013 until this year, until this SIGGRAPH, that huge chunk of time to get the open graph working. And there's all these subcomponents that there's not just the solvers and the graph. Like there's a whole bunch of framework in between that they basically wanted to like jack up the Maya house, completely replace the foundation, and then lay it back down. And Bifrost is what the idea was to be the new foundation, but it's really hard because Maya is like 20 years old. And there's this code base that you just can't extract and redo unless you refactor the entire application.
Yeah, and I was on SIGGRAPH this year on the Bifrost presentations, and it was kind of like biggest disappointment of the year.
Really?
Yeah, because it was the Marcus speech was like 1 minute. Okay, we release Bifrost 31 of July. But take a look that it is not production ready yet. You should mind that it is no destruction, no rigid body, like ray cutting.
That's exactly what we said when I was working there.
Not like demonstration. It was like excuse. It was kind of a presentation then, but then I got the feeling that expectation is still there.
I agree with that, but in their defense, they have a really well-established open graph now that people are doing really cool stuff with. On some lists where people are experimenting with it now. These are like former XSI enthusiasts who are doing like this guy did a closest point graph just from scratch without using any built-in solvers or anything, and he did it in like 15 or 20 minutes. And he's got this GIF where he shows like a node that he's moving around, and it's like snapping to the nearest like a grid of points, and it's pretty impressive that he could just do that on his own. And there's somebody that's like made their own IK solver, like a very simple IK solver. Like it's now ready to be worked on, right? So the foundation is there, but like the built-in conveniences that Houdini has, like destruction and like these one click to make a really nice simulation base is that is not there yet, but I think the foundation is ready.
As I understand, the core is very modern, very fast, really just-in-time compilation and LLVMs. Everything in here.
Well, they need GPU acceleration. They need it. It's not in there.
Not in here.
And I've talked to Robert Britson over the years, and he's like, "Well, when I have time, because he's, these solvers are."
The core is really nice. It's modern. It's really modern.
Yeah.
Like you said that Maya have like 20 years code base. Here's a modern code base.
I don't think they've replaced Maya's entire code base though.
No.
This is another sort of add-on component. The graph is an add-on component.
But talking about Bifrost, the core is really nice, but everybody's really tired about this expectation when it will be some meat on the top, and there is still not enough meat on the top.
For a lot of their strategy is to rely on the advanced nature of the solvers, right? Like now the bidirectional, like some of the demos that Duncan Brinsmead showed, where you've got a fluid sim and a cloth sim that's being manipulated by the fluid sim. Like that's pretty advanced stuff that nobody else has. And the adaptive, the adaptivity, like the voxel-based adaptivity, it's been a while. I forget the nomenclature, but the fact that you don't have to have one massive matrix of voxels. Like you could have different resolutions layered on top of each other. And it's finally working, right? Like that's pretty amazing. But they have focused on their solvers a lot. Which, maybe that's to their detriment. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the Google, where we are now.
All right. So, on the last Total Chaos, where we met in May, I talked with Paul Debevec.
Yeah.
So it looks like everybody now going to Google or NVIDIA. I met Jos Stam.
Yeah, I was.
He went to NVIDIA.
Yeah.
So it looks like Google or NVIDIA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the reason you go to, not the reason, but how it happened that you went to Google?
A friend that I worked with at Digital Domain, Jeff Kember, you might know him. He got a job here on a team, on a very small team called the Solutions Architecture team. And when he joined, there was 5 or 6 of them. And the solutions architects, and that's what I am here. There's 95 of us.
95.
95 around the world. When I started, there was like 11 or 12. And each one of us has, I was explaining this to somebody earlier today, each one of us has already had a career, right? Like we've had a career in something completely different, whether it's like, me in visual effects and animation, or somebody in financial services, or somebody in like, massive retail, or somebody in healthcare, right? So the solution, so we bring sort of subject matter expertise to Google, where Google may not have this expertise. So that means that Google can go to, a VFX studio or a broadcaster and sort of bring us along, and we could speak the language, and we could sort of be the conduit and help them understand, help Google understand their workloads, and help the customer be comfortable with the fact that, Google understands what they need. But getting back to how I got here was, I got laid off from Autodesk. Autodesk goes through these, I don't know if you knew that, but Autodesk, like every year, they lay off a large percentage of their workforce, and it's just sort of a running joke. Is like you haven't worked in the industry until you've been laid off from Autodesk. And my friend Jeff was at Google, and he said, well, we need more people like me to do what I do. So I went through the really stressful interview process.
Stressful.
It's very stressful because I knew nothing about cloud, and I had to study these concepts and these web services and web concepts that I had no idea.
Did you try to prepare for the interview?
I did. I studied for 2 weeks, back to like my university days of studying for a massive test. And there's a lot of information out there on the Google interview process, but a lot of it is focused on the engineering side and how engineers are interviewed. And that's sort of a bit of a different interview than the interviews that I went through. But I went through a bunch of rounds of interviews, and I was
rounds.
Like there's
many of them?
Well, there's the introduction to make sure that you're like a real person, where the head of the group, Miles Ward at the time, basically spoke to me as he was driving into the office or something. Like he gave me a half-hour talk about
it was
the
online.
It was on a Google Hangout, but he was just on the phone. And then there was the recruiter spoke to me for half an hour. This was just about general like stuff about the job and stuff.
To see that you are real people.
To see that I'm a real person. Yeah. And then there's the 1 hour remote hangout, which I think there was like 2 people that interviewed me there. Maybe it was just 1. I can't remember. And then if I pass that early interview, then they fly you to Mountain View for a full day of interviews, and that's like 5 or 6 people. And there you do a coding interview. Like you actually have to. They sit down and they say, design me a program that can do this and this and this. And what language do you choose? I chose Python. And they want to see if you have a brain that works in such a way that, number one, you can follow some sort of coding convention. Number 2, you can work under a mild amount of pressure. And number 3, you can come up with novel ideas as to how to solve a problem. But what's important is that you speak through your thought process. So you can't just sit there for 12 minutes in silence. You have to say, okay, first I need to do this and this, and plan it out, right? Like so you could use a whiteboard and plan out if it's this was only like a 30-minute coding interview, or maybe it was a 40-minute, but some of the engineers have to go through multiple coding interviews, and it's a lot longer. But there's that, and then there's different sort of. If you read online, if you Google interview process, you'll sort of see all these. Some of them are horror stories, and some of them are tips and tricks, and some of them are people write books on this, on how to ace the Google interview. And a lot of tech companies have similar interview processes, which are like really intense and very, sort of modular to sort of try to address different personality traits and see how they do in very specific sort of columns.
So, and you said that you are solution architect. So, and I think that solution means that for every person there is a different area of solutions. Or how did you choose this area, or somebody assigned the area for you?
Solutions architect is, so I'm a solutions architect for media and entertainment. So it's already it's already defined that I work with customers in film and video and VFX and animation, and editing and broadcast and transcoding, and then there's also like the streaming and the OTT, the over the top delivery, like the services like, you know, Netflix and Hulu and Fubo TV and those types of services. That, you know, they all have cloud backends that need some sort of content delivery. So I sort of handle, those are sort of like what's inside my wheelhouse, right? My responsibility. But a solutions architect, our jobs are, there's two parts to the job. Number one is writing solutions, right? Like publishing documents and white papers that address a problem. So I'll go out and visit a bunch of customers and I'll see that they're all having trouble, or they need help figuring out how to do burst rendering, for example. So I'll sort of visit with many customers over a period of a number of months, and then I'll come back and I'll write a massive document that will be like, go through peer review, and it'll go through editing and technical editing and do all these diagrams and illustrations, and I'll publish a document that could be, you know, 20, 30 pages long, that walks that helps the user understand what they need to do to run their workloads on the cloud. So that's one section of what I do. Another section is what we call evangelization. Evangelists, which basically means you go to conferences and you give talks, or you do stuff like this, or I go to SIGGRAPH or GTC or IBC and I give presentations, or Total Chaos, and I sort of talk about what I see out there in the industry and how we're solving it. And it's not necessarily like a selling Google thing, even though obviously I'm from Google and this is what I have to offer, but it's also to try and provide thought leadership around the industry, and to say, look, I came from your industry, and I know that you don't want to spend another $10 million building out your render farm, and here's how the cloud can help you do this. And you know, Google is one of a few public clouds out there, but here's our advantages, and here's what I know about CPUs and GPUs and you know, bandwidth and data migration, and you know, all the things that you need to understand in order to leverage the cloud.
So as I understand it, your area is like media entertainment solutions in the cloud. So
Correct.
The cloud is the key.
Correct. The cloud is the key. And so what I've been pushing, or what I've been engaged with for a year and a half or a couple of years, is this notion of cloud studio, right? Where you have nothing on-prem, you have no render farm, you have no storage. All you have is a network switch and a good connection, and you have a bunch of thin clients or zero clients or whatever to connect to workstations in the cloud. And it's not just workstations. You've got everything you would have on-prem is on the cloud. So storage and render farm and your license servers and your asset management system, databases and all that, and your queue management system, and everything is in the cloud, meaning you have like no on-prem footprint, and that means that you could run anywhere in the world. And that's talking about what I was getting back to what I was talking about at the beginning, where you've got these companies that are sort of chasing the subsidies, or they need to Brexit, for example. There's a number out there I read somewhere where 1 in 3 visual effects artists in London are not UK citizens. So if Brexit goes through, and these people, they don't want to get a visa, or the companies don't want to pay for it, or it's going to take a long time for them to get a visa, they might just open up a facility in mainland Europe and move these artists there. But are they going to spend $10 million building another facility there, or 10 million euros? Or are they going to deploy on the cloud and just set these artists up with a monitor, a couple monitors, and a zero client and an internet connection? And all of a sudden, now you've got another facility that was like, took a matter of, you know, less than a week to set up, or, you know, however long it takes you to buy those monitors and those zero clients. Versus, I don't know if you've ever tried to go out and buy 200 graphics cards, 200 Quadros, and 200 workstations like HP, you know, Z840s or whatever, and get enough RAM and enough disk and everything like that takes a long time to deploy. And to orchestrate all that is expensive. And when the production's over, what if you want to shrink down to nothing? You can't.
Yeah, but I have a particular question.
Okay.
I went to Amazon this year on SIGGRAPH and asked. So
Google, yeah. It's okay.
Okay, I went to this year. Google was not on SIGGRAPH.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, last year in Vancouver, I went to Google and talked with somebody about this remote studio in the cloud. I want to rent a workstation, and I want to choose this software, and this software, because now the answer is that you will bring your software with you.
You bring your licenses.
Yeah. But my perfect case is rent a software like a cell phone, and I want to pay by minutes or even by second by using the software remotely.
Yeah.
As I understand, there is still no agreement between
it's not really there yet. For interactive software, it's not there
for
yet.
interactive.
Because
for the rendering, it's okay now.
For rendering, like Chaos Group, they have usage-based licensing.
Yeah.
I saw the announcement that Cinema 4D is going to be offering that soon.
Yeah.
But there's
NSI, everybody.
But there's other companies that are like, okay, maybe we'll do a subscription model where you pay by the month. It's the interactive software is not there yet, and that's going to take a lot of negotiation and a lot of involvement of the legal teams of all these companies to be able to offer that, because you're effectively reselling a license, and to be a licensed reseller is a whole different ballgame. It might make sense for existing licensed resellers, like RFX, for example. You remember them? What if they could offer reselling licenses in the cloud to cloud workstations? That's a thing that maybe could be looked into. I mean, I'm just thinking of this right now, and there's no promises, but to be a licensed reseller is a pretty complicated setup that I don't think Google or Amazon or Microsoft are really interested in being in that business. Amazon does have a marketplace for licenses, but those are mostly for render tokens and stuff like that. Yeah. But interactive licensing, I think, is going to be the linchpin, the key to delivering these things, because we're pretty close to having full cloud-based studio deployments. Yeah. But you got to build your own license server. You got to maintain your own licenses. If you have on-prem licenses, you could sort of dial back, you could tunnel back to your on-prem licenses. But then you need special connectivity and open up these ports and everything, and it's that is one of the major challenges, because on cloud, oh great, we could spin up 1,000 render workers running 1,000 Arnold renders, but do you have 1,000 Arnold render licenses? No. How do you get 1,000 Arnold render licenses? Well, we need to be able to offer a usage-based licensing model. That's something we're all talking about. Yeah. It's we're thinking about it.
Yeah. But it's just a question about the future. I think that when Adobe will do it, that everybody will follow.
Really?
Yeah, because they were first switching with the subscription.
To subscription, yeah.
They need to subscribe for the pay-as-you-go, and then they will break the break.
Well, it's like the gym membership model, right? For everybody that for every one person that uses the gym every day, there's 10 people that have a membership that don't use it. So, if it wouldn't be profitable if, this is my guess, it wouldn't be profitable if Adobe, if everybody paid $10 a month and they used Photoshop and Illustrator and Premiere 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It would not be profitable to them, because, I think their pricing model would probably go up much higher if people were using these things in a batch type of form. So, I don't know. It's the subscription model is kind of here to stay, I think, and I don't know if it's not terrible, because now you can officially with Autodesk, you can on a virtual workstation, you can use your Maya subscription model on a virtual workstation. Yeah. But subscription model doesn't work on Linux, I think. Only Windows and Mac, and there's no Mac on the cloud. Yeah. That's something that we're talking to them about, but it's a limitation right now.
Yeah. Because as I see, it was subscription. It was before subscription for the year, then 3 months, then months. Okay, everybody
can you shorten it? Daily.
Shorter quotation. So We will see.
Yeah,
We will
I mean,
see.
it's not. I don't know how much it is. How much is a Maya subscription? 100 and something.
I know that Cinema 4D, this SIGGRAPH, they announced that it will be $60 a month if you pay for the year,
Oh, it's like
and
a prorated.
it's something like 85 or
Yeah.
85 for the month.
Because you know,
It's
so
not-
here's the problem. Like you've got these studios that they have a 3-month project or a 6-month project.
yeah.
They don't want to buy like an annual license just for that time. So they need it down to like by the week or by the day, really, because you've got these these effects artists that come in for literally you pay for 4 days, right,
Yeah,
to do this
exactly.
one effect and
Just
then they
a
go
week.
away.
Mhm.
Why should you buy a month-long license for that? And obviously the software vendors, they want this money, but it's not gonna. It's a big risk to offer to go down to daily or hourly or even by the second licensing, usage-based licensing, because they can't go back. They can't say, oh, you know what, it's not making us enough money now, so we're going to go back.
Okay. How many years in Los Angeles now?
I've been at Google for 3. Well, so my older kid is 11, and we moved here when he was 1. So 10 years.
10 years,
10 years
in
yeah.
Los Angeles.
In LA, yeah.
In LA. So Canadian guy living in LA. So
About 70% of what makes LA great is the weather.
the weather.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, obviously there's the traffic and the
Yeah.
density, the population
And
density.
your wife is from LA.
She's from New York City.
So New York City,
Yeah.
so she's
But-
American.
She's American.
And
My kids were both
but
born here.
So you're Canadian living in LA.
Yeah.
Your wife is like New Yorker
Mhm.
living in LA.
Yeah. She could never move back, though, to New York.
Never.
She just went back
Uh-huh.
to visit, and just the logistics of moving around and doing stuff in that city is just so hard. Like,
Even worse.
it's
than
worse.
in
Oh,
LA?
it's worse than LA. You just get in your car, right? And
Uh-huh.
you just go somewhere. But in New York, so we lived in the city in Manhattan, and we had a car, but it was parked like a 20-minute walk away,
Uh-huh.
and you had to call 24 hours ahead to get it out of the parking lot. I don't know if you've ever had to park a car in New York.
Uh-huh.
And we paid $350 a month to park the car. And so, like, if you have kids in car seats,
Uh-huh.
you're going to call a taxi. Like, the taxi doesn't have car seats. If you want to have the car seat, you
Really?
tell the taxi driver, can you wait until I strap the kid in? They're like, no, I'm not going to wait. And they just pull off, whatever. Or if you have a dog, they're not going to let you in there. And Uber had just started when we moved away from New York. So it was that would have been much better. But, at the time it was all what they call car services, right? So there's either a taxi or like a limo, like a town car. And those are like, way more expensive, and they're all like, they give you attitude, and they're not, controlled as much as taxis. But it's just, moving around the city and getting things done, just going food shopping is just it's so complicated in a big city like New York.
Okay,
But,
now I see.
So anyways, my wife experienced that, and she's like, you know what? I can't go back. The New Yorker in me is gone.
Usually the people from New York
Yeah.
living in LA, they are not happy. They want to come back. And there's first time
I don't know. We've really turned into hippies up here. Like, we live in the mountains outside LA and Topanga and north. Like, so there's Santa Monica, and then there's Malibu, and Topanga's kind of in the middle, and up in the mountain, where all the forest fires are, and we're like, yeah, it's really great when you go home and the birds chirping and the wind blowing and
nature here.
nature, yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. So such a nice tour about the Google.
My pleasure.
As I said, I can live here for 6 months without need to going outside. There's everything here, from fitness to gaming room, for showers and the nice food. Everything here, like a small planet on the planet.
It really is a bubble. It really is it's the tech
It's
bubble.
a bubble, tech
Yeah.
bubble, wooden bubble. I said.
Well, wooden bubble, yeah. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good.
So nice. Thank you very much for interview and for spending such a long time with us. So thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much.
Always great to see you.